So if this were a PR war, public relations, Vladimir Putin would be dead, okay? He is losing the PR war. I mean, look at him. He looks like Dr. Evil in some sort of lair with all of his minions. This is the first time he's been seen in a while in semi-public, and he's kind of defensive, and he's offering up new reasons, and he doesn't seem like a man who is winning. That's my impression. Tell me, what do you think?
It was a real threat. Already in the foreseeable future, with the international military cooperation, the pro-Nazi regime in Kyiv could have received weapons of mass destruction, whose target, of course, would have been Russia.
I hadn't heard that before. Had you, as a justification? If they got weapons of mass destruction, then they might have come to us. And we're 3 weeks in, right? I mean, he's defensive. He's trying to justify the war. This is a man who might know that he could lose this one. Next.
All diplomatic avenues were exhausted. They just did not leave us any option to solve in peaceful manner the problems that were not caused by us. And because of that, we were simply forced to start a special military operation.
You explain yourself when you're feeling vulnerable. He's feeling vulnerable. People who are winning, who are confident, who know they did the right thing, don't have to explain it. Next.
In terms of the military tactics developed by Russian Ministry of Defense and the General Staff, they were completely justified. And our lads, soldiers and officers, have shown bravery and heroism, and they are doing everything that they can to avoid loss of civilian life in Ukrainian cities.
Yeah, your tactics stink, and so, I'm sorry, do some of your lads out there drunk on the battlefield. We've seen it. You guys are missing your targets. You're hitting women and children. This is, well, these are war crimes, clearly. And what everyone knows now, you've been exposed, your military has been exposed, according to one military expert. Take a look. It appears as though Russia's military is mired in 1970. 52 years ago. Also, maybe why Vladimir Putin is holding back, he wants to maintain the gap between external perceptions and the reality of their capabilities. Does that make sense? The reality is not so much. Russian generals would rather leave them, they're talking about airplanes now, parked menacingly on runways than have them flown incompetently into battle. Airplanes. The pilots over there have not been getting nearly enough training. Some get just 20 minutes of flight time a day. That is not enough to stay sharp. So that's the leader who is losing at least the PR war. Here's the one who's winning. Vladimir Zelensky speaking before Congress today in Washington via Zoom from Kyiv.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. Slava Ukraina! Slava Ukraina!
Glory to heroes.
My colleagues, Slava Ukraina! Slava Ukraina!
Big moment there. Sorry that Nancy had to lead the way. Slava Ukraina, apparently it means glory to Ukraine. And then we heard from the president. He wants that no-fly zone. NATO aircraft, American aircraft patrolling the skies over Ukraine.
This is a terror that Europe has not seen for 80 years, and we are asking for a reply, for an answer to this terror from the whole world. Is this a lot to ask for, to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine to save people? Is this too much to ask? Humanitarian no-fly zone, something that that Russia would not be able to terrorize our free cities.
Looks like that's not going to happen. He seems to know that, and he offered an alternative right after that.
If this is too much to ask, we offer an alternative. Aircraft that can help Ukraine, help Europe. And you know that they exist and you have them, but they are on Earth, not in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian sky.
And that's a problem. And the Biden administration's not committing, at least at this point. And we've done it before. We've provided armaments to all kinds of governments all over the place. These guys are essentially freedom fighters, and we're not doing it. Then he showed a pretty compelling video of the horror, what's happening in his country.
We must preventively destroy every single aggressor who seeks to subjugate other nations. Please watch the video.
Very, very powerful. He's not going to get what he wants, it looks like. And remember, most of the members in Congress have already made up their minds. Look at how they reacted.
I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Glory to Ukraine.
Thank you for your support.
Again, powerful, maybe even emotional, but it's like a bunch of people who went to go see a movie that moved them emotionally, and then they were on to their lives as soon as they left, because he's not going to get the no-fly zone, and he's not going to get the airplanes. By the way, personally, that might be the right call. Might be. It's complex. He won't be the first guy to go to Congress from another country and make the case passionately, from Ukraine even. Poroshenko did this back in 2014, warned the world about what could happen if he did not get lethal weapons.
Please understand me correctly. Blankets, night vision goggles are also important, but one cannot win the war with the blankets. Even more, we cannot keep the peace with the blanket.
Why do they clap at all this stuff if they're not going to follow through? If they're not going to give the guy what he wants? They didn't give him the equipment. They only gave him non-lethal assistance, and it looks like Poroshenko is going to go back somewhat empty-handed, not entirely. But the people, the American people, seem to be on the side of Congress here. How should the U.S. respond to war in Ukraine? Only 13% believe that we should respond militarily, and a no-fly zone would essentially be a military response. Now, a couple of hours later, Joe had to see the political outfall or fallout from the speech and coordinate and calculate and make his announcement. Nothing on the airplanes, nothing on a no-fly zone, but $800 million worth of military hardware. Some of it interesting, a lot of rifles, pistols, machine guns, bullets, helmets, all that kind of stuff, and larger weapons systems as well. But when it came to those airplanes, Poland could potentially help, and we could backfill. Not yet, at least.
Mr. President, what will it take for you to send the Polish MiGs that President Zelensky is asking for?
I'm not going to comment on that right now. I'm not going to comment anything other than what I told you. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, Mr. President, quickly, you did just say that Putin is going after maternity wards, hospitals. Are you ready to call him a war criminal?
Okay, folks, I need to
I think they got to put that door a little bit closer to the desk so Joe doesn't have to walk that far. That is not a good look. Hey, there's a time and a place for questions, and maybe that wasn't really the time for questions, but it just looks weak and looks bearing. It's part of the equation. Later, he was at a reception, got a pretty straightforward question. Hey, is Vladimir Putin a war criminal at this point? What do you think, Mr. President?
Mr. President, after everything we've seen, are you ready to call Putin a war criminal?
No.
Why not?
Thank you so much.
And it was back to the cocktail party after that. Are you ready to call President Putin a war criminal? No. Direct question, simple. These people got to him and said, uh-oh. Comes back 20 minutes later to correct the situation.
War criminal, sir. Are you ready
Oh,
to call him a war
I
criminal?
think he is a war
Will
criminal.
you be meeting with him?
Oh, you said war criminal. Yes, of course he's one of those. Not good, not good. Overall, I saw some quotes in the paper from a smart guy. I don't agree with him on a lot, but I think he's right here. Max Boot. We can't afford to start a larger war, but we also can't afford to let Russia win. That rings true. Also, we need to be wary of Putin, but he also needs to be wary of us. And it seems like, at least with the airplanes that we could be helping to supply, we're tiptoeing when we should just be plunging straight through.